Hello again, you sick, twisted weather freaks, and welcome to another fun-filled, action-packed, and intellectually stimulating edition of This Week in Weather. I'm your host and meteorologist DT from WX Risk here in Central Virginia, your captain of chaos, your colonel of confusion, and your friendly neighborhood commander of catastrophe. It's Saturday evening. We're talking This Week in Weather on this February 27, 28 edition. Let's get right to it. And the main topic here is going to be one last potential hurrah in the middle Atlantic region, in particular, March 3 and March 6th. And this is kind of important because if you look at the actual snowfall, seasonal total so far, the one area east of the Mississippi River, which has been really below normal snowfall, has been the area from Richmond, from Washington, D.C., to Hampton Roads and Richmond into, down to the North Carolina border, really. Let me show you what I mean. Here's the seasonal snowfall for the eastern half of the country. And notice, like, for example, in Tennessee, Nashville, Chattanooga, nice snow there for those guys. It's a pretty good snow season. Much, even more than we've had in the lower middle Atlantic region. More in here, you can notice that. Same thing, look at Arkansas. Big snows in here. Memphis, significant snow. All in one event, mind you, but still more than what they had in, I guess, in most of Hampton Roads. We can enlarge this a little bit, take a look at a more regional shot here. This here is the Middle Atlantic region, and again, if you look at the winter severity index, which you can look at from the Midwest Regional Climate Center, the winter's been gangbusters north of that line. I mean, tremendous. New York City's had a great winter. Boston's had a good winter. New York, and of course, those winters are still going on. I mean, they haven't stopped by any means. Now, this is only as of February 20th, so there's obviously more snow which has fallen, and of course, these guys' winters, north of the Pennsylvania-Maryland line, their winters can continue sometimes until, late March. So they're not done at all. But here the window is closing once you go south of the Pennsylvania-Maryland border. And, 5 or 6 inches in Richmond, nothing in Hampton Roads, very little Hampton Roads, North Carolina. The Southern Virginia Piedmont, not much. 12 inches in D.C., not much in the Delmarva. So it's a big lack of snow in this area. So maybe, like I said, we have two events possibly coming up. So let's take a look at this. Now, before we get to that, here's our service map on Saturday night into Sunday morning. And we see that big cold front coming southward. That's going to be the front which arrives on late Sunday night into Monday in here. But in the meantime, we have a warm front coming northward. And we're going to see some interesting temperature changes. Let's show, this is now Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Yeah, and you can see the 60-degree line running through North Carolina here. Up near 50 in Richmond, and mid 40s in Charlottesville, low 40s in Northern Virginia, D.C., and the 30s in Pennsylvania, Maryland, north of that line into New York City, New Jersey. This is 6 o'clock on 6 o'clock on Sunday evening, and the 60-degree line just south of Richmond is moving northward. Look at the great day they're going to have in North Carolina on Sunday. Meanwhile, it's still quite cold at this whole area. Again, mainly north of the Pennsylvania-Maryland border. And then here, this is now Monday morning, 5 a.m. The 65-degree line is pushed into Fredericksburg, if you can believe that. Apparently on these southerly winds north of, notice it's still, I guess, 53 in Charlottesville, but Lynchburg is 61. 64 in Richmond, Fredericksburg is 54, and D.C. is 47. So there's a nice front right through here. Then by Monday morning at 11 a.m., the front now begins to plow southward. You can see the winds driving this southward like this, driving the front southward. And then by the time we get to, this is 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock on Monday evening, where, the warm spell is over, the cold air, very impressive cold air in Pennsylvania and New York State coming southward. And then interestingly enough, if we look at our min temperatures in the upper left here, this is the NAM model. This is the 0Z run on Sunday. Here's the 0Z Sunday run. Notice you have 32, 31 in Richmond, 30 in Charlottesville, 24, 25 in D.C. But this is the GFS run from 0Z Saturday. The Saturday run, look at DC. Richmond was 27, 25. Richmond was 22, 23. DC is 23, 22. Charlottesville is 21 degrees. Big difference, 9-degree temperature difference between these two model ones. Is Charlottesville, 8-degree temperature difference in Richmond, and 5-degree difference in Charlottesville. So big difference here. GFS is obviously was way too cold according to the new data. All right, let's take a look at this a potential snowstorm event or two and see what, if anything's happening. Now, this here, we're going to take a look at our teleconnections here a little bit. When we use the term teleconnections, what we're referring to is a specific type of configuration or pattern within the jet stream, which exists over the same area, sometimes for a couple of days or a couple of weeks. And of course, it does affect the large scale or synoptic pattern. So here is a chart of the Arctic oscillation from November 1st to March 1st. And we can see, February 26th. And notice a couple of different things here. First, it was very positive here up until December 1st. Then it flipped, and then we went negative. And this is when we had all the cold air and the big snowstorms in the plains of the Midwest. And then it flipped here on after February 16th, and it's been positive since. So that's, I want to show you how it definitely indicated the pattern was going to flip, and it did. And this here was the NAO, the North American Oscillation, also known as the Greenland Block. And again, notice that up until right in November, up until December 1st, it was constantly positive. No blocking in Greenland at all. Then it went kind of neutral here for a while, and then it went kind of negative, and now it's back to being positive again. Flipped here right around the middle of February. So we did have some Greenland blocking, not a lot, but some. And then the P&A, which is the West Coast trough, this here's the P&A pattern. And notice again, not as persistent. We were negative here, then we had a positive spike here, then we went negative here. And what's interesting is that if you look at this is when the cold air was strongest, and when you have a negative P&A, that means you have a West Coast ridge and a southeastern trough. So when it went negative like this, it was the exact wrong time. That's one of the reasons we did not get the Arctic air into the East Coast. Look at late January. Arctic oscillation strongly negative. See that? Look at the North American oscillation, negative. But the P&A in the second half of January went negative, which is not what you want to see. That is a trough on the West Coast and a ridge in the southeastern states, and that prevented the cold air from coming into the East Coast. Here we go. This here is a nice hemispheric map, February 12th. I've highlighted the blocking in red. Notice with the dark red blocking, the strong positive anomalies over the North Pole, the Arctic region. Normally, that's where your polar vortex is. When you see all those big lines around it on the weather maps, on the upper air charts, you're not seeing that now. See that? You're not seeing that. So instead we have the strong positive anomalies over the Arctic regions, whether it's Siberia, on the Arctic side there, or in Canada. And this is a classic blocking negative AO pattern, Arctic oscillation. And then this here is February 15th, when we had the Arctic outbreak plunging into Texas, bringing the heavy snow, the severe cold in Texas and Colorado and Kansas and Oklahoma and Nebraska and Iowa and Missouri and Arkansas. Notice the ridge off the East Coast. You're not getting the cold air in that pattern. Okay? And we can see the strong block in north central Canada, forcing the cold air into the trough where it's very deep and making the Arctic outbreak very pronounced. And that block where the B is in north central Canada stayed there for a week. The block wasn't moving, and it kept feeding cold air into the trough, and it wasn't going. It was cold and cold and cold and severe cold and not doing anything. So I just thought I'd point that out to you. Now here's the current upper air pattern as of February 26th. Look at the difference from this pattern to this one. Okay, blocking pattern, negative Arctic oscillation, no blocking, positive Arctic oscillation. See the difference? I thought it's a very useful exercise to look at. Okay, let's look at our charts now. So here is the Arctic oscillation and the NAO, and notice that they're all very positive right now. Now the models are showing, and these charts are showing, we have 6 different models we're looking at here, so this is kind of useful, that we're positive, 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 then we're positive here into March, and then right around March 4th through the 8th, we get a little negative spike here in the Arctic oscillation and the NAO, a little bit of a negative block right in here, negative shot right in there. Then it goes positive, both of them again, as we go to mid-March. But, so there is that maybe a window there of March 4th through 8th where both of these are slightly negative, so maybe, something to keep an eye on. Now, on the West Coast, the Pacific side, it's shit. I mean, it just is. The oops, wrong map here. We'll change it to this one. There we go. This here is the P&A on the upper left corner. Again, strongly negative all the way through. You see that? Constantly negative all the way through from February 27th to March 15th. And the EPO, the bottom one, that is your Siberian connection. That's when the Alaska Ridge connects to Siberia and you get cross-polar flow when this is negative. Okay? So again, but as you can see, this is positive, this is negative. Notice it's constantly positive all through this time frame through the middle of March. Now towards the middle of March we get a little kind of neutral a little bit here, but again generally positive. That's not what you want to see, so there's no cross-polar flow. So the Pacific side still sucks. So let's see how that implicates the pattern. So as you take a look here, this here is now Sunday night. And a couple things to point out here. There's our huge ridge over the southeastern states. You can see this. Look at this 591 heights over the Florida Keys. Enormous ridge here. Look at this vortex here. There's a bit of a polar vortex this way, and then a deep trough in the northern jet stream like this. This is driving the cold front, which is going to come through on Monday. And then this piece of energy right here is the next system for March 3. And there's another trough here. So again, the Pacific is very bad. Constant big troughs coming in. No cross-polar flow. So this southeast ridge is going to get knocked down big time by this piece of energy in north of the Great Lakes. Here we go. Look what happens from there to this. So again, this feature becomes the 50-50 low and knocks down the southeast ridge. Right there. See that? Huge 500 low over Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. Classic 50-50 low. Now look what's going on in Greenland. You see the red line increasing there? The block over Iceland and Great Britain is retrograding to Greenland. And that piece of energy, which was over Arizona, is now in Kansas. Okay, and then what happens is finally we get to this. Now we have the upper air map for March 3rd, and we can see again our huge 50-50 low monster block is developed in Greenland. And look at this little piece of energy right over eastern Virginia and northeast North Carolina on the European. And there's but again on the Pacific side, it's terrible pattern. We're just getting these bomb systems coming in. Look at this monster trough in the Pacific. Another one hitting California with much needed rain and snow there. So again, not great here. We're not doing really great with this pattern on the Pacific side. But the Atlantic is again shaping up a possible something. Let me show you what I mean. Now this here is the GFS. This is the 18Z. This is Saturday evening GFS, and you can see the lows moving off the coast. Okay, the rain does not get north of the Virginia-North Carolina border. Now, maybe that's too far south. I think it is, but that's what the GFS is showing. Now, the European is showing something different here. The European has the low a little further north, and you've got moderate snow in the Shenandoah Valley and portions of the Virginia Piedmont, maybe rain and snow into Richmond. And if we look at that in a little more detail, we can see how it's doing it. Now, the thing is with March snowstorms, you always want them to develop during the morning hours, especially in the Mid-Atlantic and the Tennessee Valley, Ohio Valley areas. As the sun's getting stronger and stronger and stronger, you want the precipitation to begin like at 3 or 4 or 5 or 8, 6 a.m. When the cloud cover is over you and your temperature is 30, 31, 32, 33 degrees, the snow comes down and it holds the temperature in place. If it starts at, let's say, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, your morning temperature might be 31 or 32 degrees, but then you jump up to 38 even with cloud cover simply because the sun is getting stronger. And that means you get rain or snow and rain mixed. But the European here is showing this is 10 o'clock on Wednesday morning of March 3rd in the upper left. Notice you got moderate snow in Roanoke and Lynchburg and Harrisonburg and Lexington and Staunton and Charlottesville and Gordonsville. You know, it's a pretty nice looking snowstorm. Maybe some snow into Richmond or maybe to the north and west. And the bottom right is 1 o'clock on Wednesday. Same sort of thing. Notice North Carolina's all rain. Hampton Roads is all rain. So DC, because they're not getting heavy precip, is rain because it's not pulling down the cold air. But in the Shenandoah Valley, it's a snowstorm. Now, does it mean anything? Does it accumulate? I don't know. The European is showing this, 3, 4, 5 inches in the Shenandoah Valley, a couple inches in the Piedmont. Again, I'm skeptical of this because it doesn't start early in the morning. So it's got possibilities, but we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. Okay, then we go beyond that. Now we go from this map. This was the one we looked at. This is March 4, 3rd, 4. And now we get to this. This is March 5, 6. Going Friday night into Saturday morning. This is screaming snowstorm for the East Coast for somebody on a very small area because of it has to happen just right. See, the ridge is here. Normally we want the ridge this way. This is a little too far east. So that's going to force this system to track further to the east. Now there's your 50-50 low, but look at the northern jet. See how it comes down and does this? It's not phasing. There's no phase here at all. This is completely separate. And there's your block over Greenland, very, very powerful. So because there's no phasing, this southern low takes a southern track. If there was some phasing, it might come off the coast more and impact, let's say, Philly or maybe DC or Philly or New York and Boston, but it doesn't do that. It can't. If this pattern is right, it can't do that. So that's the issue. Now there's some time for that to change, but right now that's what the data is showing. If we look at the this here is the GFS ensemble. Again, notice here there's no phasing. See the southern energy? There's the northern energy like this, but there's no phasing. There's no phase at all. This is scooting out like this. There you go. And if we look at the European, it's showing the same sort of thing. A partial phase on the East Coast, but is it enough to bring the low up the coast? I don't know. It might. It's going to be very, very close. And we look at the actual surface condition. Now, this is the GFS here. This is the Saturday GFS, Saturday afternoon. There's the low on the coast, South Carolina, Georgia. A lot of rain in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. And then as the low bombs out on Saturday night, Saturday afternoon, you can see there's a little band of snow in eastern Virginia. I don't know if that's right or not, but it's a big low, produces a lot of rain, a lot of wind. It looks pretty stormy on Saturday, March 6th. It really does. Even if it's just a rainstorm, it's a pretty big system. Now, this here is what the GFS is showing in terms of the snow, which if you look at it in more high resolution. Now, I think this is overdone. If you notice here again, this is Saturday. This is the Saturday 12Z run of the GFS, valid a week from today, Saturday, March 6th. See the problem here. Now you see the moderate snow in Richmond and Emporia, Danville. It's still raining in Hampton Roads, but as the low bombs out, you get this band of heavy snow which sets up Saturday night. Right in here, you can see there's the low there. And then right here is the heavy snow band. Look at this baby setting up. Okay, so there's heavy snow in Elizabeth City and Norfolk and all of Hampton Roads and maybe as far west as Richmond and Williamsburg and Franklin and Salisbury and Wallis Island and maybe, eastern Northern Neck and Eastern Peninsula. But again, all this happens during the daytime hours and, into the evening. So I'm skeptical that it's going to be doing this. But that's what the GFS is showing here. It really bombs it out. And you can see, and then, this is Saturday, 4 a.m., still getting heavy snow in Hampton Roads and the eastern Delmarva. And they look at the snowfall, the map looks impressive. You can see 6 inches in Hampton Roads, if this is right, according to the model. Again, this is overdone because it's, in my opinion, it's happening at the wrong time of day. And you're certainly not going to have a 10-to-1 snow ratio, even if it is snow, not in this situation. It's the wrong time of day. Starts at 4 a.m., maybe. 1 o'clock in the afternoon, no. Not going to get a 10-to-1 snow ratio. Something, yes, but this, I don't know. Okay, let's take a look what the European is doing. The European has a very big system, and it's got a little band of snow here in northeast North Carolina and southeast Virginia. Big high over Michigan, pulling down the cold air, but the low moves off the coast. You can see what it does here. It just moves, the snow doesn't get any further north than, I guess, Richmond, if it gets to that far, or Tappahannock or Salisbury, and then it slides off the coast. Not enough phasing to pull it northward. Now, that being said, this here is the GFS parallel. All right, so this is the GFS. This is the new experimental GFS. We call it in the weather business, this is the GFS 16. It's called the VFV 16, GFS 16, or FV3 model. This is the new improved version that's going to be upgraded in the replacement. And you can see what it does. It's got the low here. It has a humongous snowstorm in northwest and western North Carolina and all of Virginia. I mean, look at this thing. It just goes to town. Again, this comes in Saturday at 7 p.m. Even heavy snow in Hampton Roads, which I find difficult to believe. Not impossible, but difficult. And then, especially in the afternoon hours. And then here, Now we get into Saturday, Sunday morning 1 a.m. and Sunday morning 4 a.m. Now I can see snow in Hampton Roads with the colder temperatures. This thing is going to town, pulling in the cold air, and huge heavy snow in Richmond and Raleigh and Emporia and maybe Lynchburg and Lake Kerr and Crewe and Powhatan and Tappahannock and into Salisbury. You look at this into southern New Jersey, just goes pounding snow, and you can see this wrapping up here. This is the GFS parallel. I don't know if it's right. It's a possibility. It's a pretty good model. It's certainly better than the old GFS. There's no doubt about that. And if we look at the actual snowfall maps, which I have here, 1 second, let me post them up in 1 second. Snowfall map is very impressive. Look at this snow here. 21 inches in Richmond, or Petersburg, 15, almost 16 in Richmond. Look at Raleigh. Holy cow, Greensboro, 23 inches. Look at that. Of course, this is a projection. This isn't right. Again, it occurs at the wrong time of day, and this is assuming a 10-to-1 ratio. And we're not going to see a 10-to-1 ratio in this system, not in March, not unless we have an severe Arctic outbreak over us, so we're not going to have that with the system. Notice that again, because there's no phasing, look what the model is hinting at here. No phasing, no big snow in north of Charlottesville or DC or Philly or New York City. A good snow in Boston though, and Cape Cod, but not, and maybe southern New Jersey, they get good snow in Salisbury, but nothing north of I-90. See, that just shuts off completely. There's no phasing. And the reason for that is because look at the model is how it develops. This means no phasing. The same thing with the GFS ensemble. There's no phasing, so the snow can't come that far north. Now, what other reasons do we have to think something might happen here? Well, let's talk about the MJO. The MJO here is now currently in phase 6. You can see that. And what happens is most of the models move it into the neutral circle and then into phase 8 during the first after March 6 or 7. You can see that it goes into phase 8. Here's the European on the bottom one here, on the bottom center of the European, and there is the GFS ensemble here as well. You can see it goes into phase 8. So maybe that's, and then the Australians are also showing it. March 6th, there's the system. Classic on the Australians. They're the best ones in the world when it comes to the MJO. March 6th, phase 8, which is exactly our date, which is a big East Coast potential pattern here. And the reason, and this is the other one. This is the one from Colin McRitchie. Now it's a little different here. He's got it more into neutral circle and doesn't come until much later, late March. But the Australians here, that's the big one. And the reason why I mention is because of this. This is what the upper air pattern anomalies look like in the weak or moderate La Nina. You look at the negative anomaly off the East Coast here and the huge blocking of Greenland. So yeah, the phase 8 MJO supports something here in the first week of March, in addition to the Arctic Oscillation and the NAO. I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm just saying it supports it. So it's something here to watch, one last hurrah, because after that happens, again, even if look at this, what happens, it goes to phase 2 and phase 3. And if that happens, well, the whole pattern breaks down. Here's the GFS ensemble for March 9th. Monster trough on the west coast. The polar vortex is now north of Alaska. See that? That is just a kiss of death for the cold in North America. So the trough is here on the west coast. Positive anomaly here developing. We're getting this sort of flow here. And here's the European from March 9th. You can see the same sort of thing. Trough here. Big ridge right here. Okay, and again, the vortex is on the Asian side of North Pole, which is just, the kiss of death. And if we go to March 11th and then March 15th, look at the trough stays. It stays on the west coast the whole time. See that? See this? And that means a constant ridge here. And there's nothing in Greenland at this point to keep the ridge down. There's no blocking in Greenland, so this ridge is strong and we're mild. So after March 15th, we may be quite mild the second half of March. So this could be the last big winter event on the East Coast. Maybe some exceptions for New England, but if this is right, after March 7th, whatever happens, it's done. We'll see. I'm not going to say that definitively yet, but based upon this data here, I would really be downplaying winter weather events after March 10th for the East Coast. Well, we'll see. Maybe that'll change, but that doesn't look promising right now. This is meteorologist DT from Weather Risk. I'll talk to you soon.